Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was created in the AITAH subreddit by a throwaway account. The post was made 7 months ago and is titled AITAH to ask my husband to block his female friend who warned him not to marry me. I, 26F, want my husband, 27M, to immediately block one of his friends, Kyla, 27F. He thinks I am overreacting and wants opinions from some level-headed people on whether I am just acting crazy or if this is something that would cross the line for them. My husband has a group of 8 friends he has been close with since his college days. Kyla is one of them. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy. His friends, especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less since he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others, we both are neurodivergent, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, messing with his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to annoy him. Overall, she feels like a person who has severe social boundary issues. We got married 2 years ago and things have been great between us. Last week, we celebrated our 2nd wedding anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since our marriage. Everyone laughed at my husband for how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up because you bet that their marriage would not even last 2 years." Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood, so I let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He had also noticed Jen's comment and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do so. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico and he surprised me there. We posted our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone since we had only been dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly and that she felt I was not the right girl for him. It seems she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband is with me. I was very furious at this point as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has, of course, not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me and the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla and that she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I am being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us and helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time to calm down and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the asshole for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I'm overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me and never told me that Kyla asked him out during college. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see Kyla's face again. User DeathTeat said, Info, how has Kyla acted since the wedding? Has her behavior changed? You describe a bad behavior in the past tense, so one might believe she's not doing those things anymore. Does she still exhibit boundary issues with your husband? Under this comment, OP said, yes, her behavior with my husband has not changed at all after marriage. However, she is the same with all other friends too. With me, she is fake nice, where she acts like we are best friends in front of my husband and barely talks to me when he is not around. User, okay, Perception 1131 said NTA. I probably wouldn't be that bothered if someone at the time of my engagement didn't think it would last. It's not uncommon for someone to think that and be pleasantly surprised when the marriage works out. What would bother me is that she clearly has feelings for your husband, and rather than keeping them to herself, because he's married and not interested, she's expressing her feelings by flirting with your husband and icing you out when he's not around. Your husband should have put a stop to that nonsense a long time ago. However, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt by thinking maybe he's clueless and doesn't notice. Plus, she's only cold to you when he's not around. However, once you pointed out her behavior to him and explained that it was making you uncomfortable, he should have stood up for you. That means he should have had a discussion with her in which he states, I've noticed you're touching me, etc., and it makes me uncomfortable. Also, you're only friendly with my wife when I'm around. I'd like these behaviors to stop. If they don't stop, I won't hang out with you anymore. Note that he needs to state that he's noticed these things and he'd like them to stop. He shouldn't try to put the blame on you by saying, my wife doesn't like. He needs to man up and stand up for you, his wife. If she doesn't comply, then he should follow through and cut her out of his life. My husband has a former coworker who seemed to me to be stalking him on social media. He immediately said he would block her. I told him he didn't need to, it wasn't a big deal, we never see her in person anyway. But he blocked her anyway, as he said he didn't want me to ever feel uncomfortable and that my feelings are more important to him than the feelings of a former coworker. This is what your husband should be telling you, that he cares more about your happiness than the happiness of another woman who is secretly hoping his marriage will fail because she's in love with him. Please show your husband the responses here. User 1 hour a day said NTA. It's definitely natural for you to dislike Kyla, it sounds like she's into your husband. It'll probably be hard for him to outright block her, considering the dynamic of the friend group, and the last thing you want is to turn all his friends against you. Personally, I don't think blocking her is the solution. Instead, you should sit him down and seriously voice your concerns. Let him know that she would say something like that she touches him too often, and that she would bet against your marriage behind your back. That behavior needs to be shut down, and he needs to be on your side. Personally, I'd get drunk with them and make a cocky joke to Kyla when you're alone, saying she's jealous you ended up with him instead of her, and laugh in her face. But I'm petty as hell. That is such a strange thing to say. Kyla is clearly jealous and wants to be the one with OP's husband. If Kyla was not romantically interested in OP's husband in the first place and just made that offhand remark, then I wouldn't think it's worth ending a friendship over. However, knowing that Kyla likes the guy, I'm much more inclined to the idea of cutting her off. This is a matter of choosing between a friend or your wife. I think the answer is clear. About 5 months later, OP gave us an update. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic stunts to stir up issues between my husband and me. After I wrote the post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments and that it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing for her comments and for not making more effort to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She began inviting me for brunches and girls' nights out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend, Joanna, 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised at how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is wealthy, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family was also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went to a conference in Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I received a "Hey girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and that they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made the mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she was the only person honest with me about Joanna, and she went into detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile with no followers. We checked her photos and saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation and he did not think much of it. He asked me how I knew, and I told him that Kyla mentioned she saw her pictures at the conference and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to ask for more proof. She told me that they had been chatting for the past 2 months and planned to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to his room at night and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted they not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to leave me alone. She kept insisting that they were telling the truth and that she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video games, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2 to 3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of it. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He said he has had no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up, and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to ruin his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip that luckily we are nerds and played video games at night before sleeping. Otherwise, props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of it and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I am busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point I am not interested, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should not have gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna at the same time Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband, but I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. This woman is such a shit stirrer. There isn't much to say here besides Kyla just straight up needs to be cut off. I wish OP's husband was a bit more proactive towards the start, but regardless, I'm just glad that the two are in agreement now that Kyla is a major issue for their well-being. User Edlo9596 said, "Does your husband also believe that Kyla made up a fake Instagram account pretending to be Joanna? Because that's pretty psycho behavior." Under this comment, OP said, "Yes. He believes me because I told him that I never told Kyla why I thought the account was fake. It's possible she guessed it if I ever mentioned to her that we play video games at night, but it seems suspicious she would guess that was exactly the reason why I realized the account was fake." User ElegantP4195 said, "There's a part of me that wants OP to make up some Joanna messaged me again. Kyla gave her style messages just to force Kyla to react. But man, what a piece of work. Kudos for not scratching her eyes out." User Material Cellist 4133 said, "You are not stupid. Your husband is stupid. He allowed this toxic person to be in your life, especially after you tried to get him to block her. If you did not push forward with the investigation, you would be going through a divorce. I blame your husband. He ignored your boundaries, and to be frank, he cared more about his friendships over his relationship with you." User Tall Negotiation 6623 said, "You made a mistake in starting to hang out with her. She was a snake and still is, and you should never trust a snake. Do I understand correctly that the messages were sent to you from a different account than Joanna's real account? Why did you even believe that it was ever her? Why would Joanna make an entire new account just to message you, since that makes zero sense? If this story is actually real, then you and your husband need to cut her completely out of your life. No meeting her at events or talking to her. She will keep doing damage. And honestly, of course, she's the that messaged you, and your husband should have made a group text where he told everyone that Kyla was the one that messaged you and tried to break you up, and you guys would appreciate that the friend group let you keep distance to her. The is jealous of you and wants to destroy your marriage, so she can try and take advantage and your husband." User Odd Welcome 7940 said, "Let me say this. You should have always gone to John first. That said, he should have told you about running into her. He started this game and has no moral high ground to tell you what you should have done. It's also his friend that did this stuff, so he shouldn't be one to tell you that you couldn't have trusted her. He really put you in a terrible spot. Not saying he needs to apologize, but he damn sure shouldn't be lecturing you about how you handled this at all. You should definitely have a new boundary of both of them being entirely out of both your lives forever." This next story was made in the AITA subreddit 3 days ago by a user named Lucky Indication 928. The post is titled "AITA for telling my mom to shut up and accept that my wife and I aren't naming our kids the way she and dad name me and my siblings." My wife and I, both in our late 20s, had our first child together in June. Before he was born, there was a lot of talk about names from different family members on both sides, but the pressure to reveal the name was primarily on my side. We didn't tell a soul what the name would be until our son was born and we had left the hospital. My parents were disappointed when we announced our son's name. My family is very traditional in how they named us. We were each named after grandparents, and that's how they feel everyone should name their kids. My wife's family doesn't have a tradition when it comes to naming babies. They just name them and move on, no fuss or insistence on certain names. However, my wife's side tends to favor more uncommon and unusual names. My wife's and my taste tends to lean much more toward her side than mine, which is how we ended up choosing the name Hollis for our son. This was not something my parents liked because they expected our son to be either Jack, my dad's name, or Parker, my father-in-law's name. They were specifically expecting a little Jack to be born, which added to their reaction. They quizzed us on our choice to break tradition, and I told them it wasn't a tradition my wife's family used, and we decided we weren't going to have one either. Over the last couple of months, both sets of parents have questioned why and have wanted to discuss other names for future babies. My mom has been the worst by far. She asked why we went with something so unlike the names in our family. I told her our family wasn't the only family involved and that we also didn't take family tastes into account. We went with what we liked. She pointed out that our tastes were a lot like my in-laws, and I said yes, but that it wasn't about my in-laws and their taste. It was about my wife's and my taste. I told her I was done discussing it, and since that point, I now change the topic or end the conversation when she brings it up or refuses to let it go. We had a little naming ceremony on Saturday, and my mom decided she was going to dig in her heels about the name. She told me we'd picked a stupid name and that she hated it. She wanted us to change it and name him Jack or Parker. She told me we had no business breaking a long-held tradition in our family and that there's a reason those traditions exist, so foolish people can't name their babies the worst names imaginable. She also said my in-laws must be so smug thinking they'll have at least 2 stupidly named grandkids, just like they had all stupidly named kids. I lost my temper. I told her to shut up and accept that we're not naming our kids like she and dad named me and my siblings. I told her she would need to leave and learn to be more respectful because I would not tolerate those insults against my wife or her family. My mom hated being told to shut up and said I had no excuse for rudeness to her face. I thought she was being crazy when she was rude. AITA though? User Worth Season 3645 said NTA, tradition or not, this is your child and any future children. No one gets to tell you what you should name your child. You could say, well, parents, that was your tradition. We decided to start our own tradition as a family. Personally, I love the name Hollis. As for your mom, unfortunately, this might be a deal breaker that leads to limited contact or no contact. You will have to set the example. Let your parents know right off the bat that calling your child anything other than his name will not be tolerated. If they are at your place, you get up and show them the door. If you are at theirs, you get up and leave. The same goes for any outside venue or relative's home. If you are at a relative's home who is on your mom and dad's side, you can let them know your boundaries as well. I'm curious, what was the middle name? Because I actually like either father's name as a middle name. Under this comment, OP said the following: very low contact is being considered over this. It will depend on what the reaction after this is like and whether they stop or continue insulting our son's name and my ILs and my wife and myself. We didn't use either father's name. We considered a few, but went with Cameron in the middle ultimately. User Tricky Jellyfish 341 said, well, OP, you couldn't have handled it any better. I'd send her a text or email, something written telling her that you are aghast at her insulting spewfest and you're leaving the ball in her court. When she presents you and your wife with a heartfelt apology for rudely overstepping and a promise never to do it again, you will resume contact. Until then, you have nothing more to say. User Cornflakes 1989, it's as simple as this. If the kid isn't theirs, they don't get to decide the name. If they have a naming tradition, it doesn't matter, still not their kid, so it's not their decision. They have no right to insist the name be changed, and they shouldn't get shit-talking the name you or your wife for picking that name and not a name they wanted you to pick. Tell them to either grow up and accept the name, or they can look forward to not seeing their grandkids. User OxfordFox20 said, tradition is peer pressure from dead people. Tell your mother that if the best reason she has for doing things is it's traditional, then she needs to stop doing things. And that it's fine for her to disagree with the way you raise your kids, but after she shared her view once, she only gets to share it again on her way out of the door. This next story was made in the Pro-Revenge subreddit by a user named Further Dimensions. The post was made 5 months ago and is titled, "Threaten my friend with revenge porn? I'll ruin your whole damn life." My very good friend made some unfortunate mistakes and sent some pictures to someone she reasonably thought she could trust. However, she didn't know much more than his first name, his screen name, and roughly where he lived and the type of work he did. He is not in our country, but had indicated that he would be traveling for work near us shortly, and they had made some plans to meet. When she started noticing some red flags and backed out, the guy threatened to publish these pictures online. I am, incidentally, an attorney. After some searching and gathering any pictures he sent her that could possibly identify him, his online handle led me to a TikTok page, which then led me to an Instagram page with his name on it. That led to a LinkedIn page with his place of work, which matched a picture he sent of himself wearing a branded polo. Some more searching got me the email addresses of the CEO, VP of HR, Operations Manager, and Public Relations Manager. I fired off an email on behalf of my client, including screenshots of him threatening revenge porn, snippets of the conversation showing that username while he sent that exact picture of himself wearing his company's branded apparel, links to how I know it's him, along with pictures he sent her of his motorcycle with the license plate visible as further proof it is him. I also included screenshots of him discussing a workplace incident that were time-stamped, along with pieces of dialogue discussing how he had sex with an ex at his place of work and plans to have with her in his office as well. Additionally, I included a picture he sent her showing his work laptop with his entire Outlook calendar, along with proprietary information which he sent to prove he was busy, and other pictures he took of his workplace featuring non-consenting employees. I further informed his employer that I would be forwarding all this information to local law enforcement in their area, and that since he had indicated he would be traveling to the United States soon, I would also forward this to the local office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Since my client is a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil, these threats constituted a federal crime. Therefore, should they continue with his employment and their plans to send him to the United States for work, I will ensure on behalf of my client that federal law enforcement is waiting for him upon arrival. I will do this as one of the assistant U.S. attorneys for this region is a law school buddy of mine. Since I have his license plate number, I know where he lives and will be contacting his local authorities tomorrow. You dumb motherfucker. thinking you could hide behind anonymity and threaten my friend. It took me 45 minutes to destroy your life. About 3 weeks later, OP provided us with an update, barely 12 hours later. Before I get into the update, I want to clarify a few things from my original post, primarily about the contact to the employer and why. Some questioned its truthfulness. While the entire story is true, some details were omitted for various reasons. There was more I had in our possession that did positively identify this individual. So, would a lawyer contact his employer, as some stated would not be done? It depends. I did not do what I did on behalf of a client who retained me. I did it as a friend to help a friend. And as her friend who is also a labor and employment law attorney, I knew exactly how to squeeze this. Here's the thing, I was absolutely aware from the onset that the revenge threat would go nowhere with his employer. Even if I could clearly lay out how the person with this screen name was, in fact, this person who works at this company, all we had were screenshots. If it was just the revenge threat, any employer would say, well, thank you for bringing it to our attention, but even if we accept our employee uses this screen name and we neither confirm nor deny anyone of that name works here, we have no provenance on this. This is just an alleged screenshot of an alleged conversation that could be easily edited and manipulated. Please feel free to pursue this with local authorities, and rest assured, should we be asked to, we will cooperate fully with any law enforcement inquiry, but we have no further comment at this time. And I know that's what they would say because that's exactly what I would say. An alleged screenshot of an alleged conversation that was allegedly sent under an alleged username that is allegedly one of our employees. Whatever, dude. Call the cops if you're worried about it. We'll answer them honestly if they come to us. The issue wasn't the revenge porn threat. It was the picture of the contents of the work laptop, because that can't be faked. There's no way for her or me to create a false image of the actual proprietary information on his work computer unless he sent it. There's no way for me or her to have possession of images taken of his coworkers without their consent unless he sent them. The proof here wasn't that this person broke the law, it's that he sent pictures of company employees and property, which would absolutely be verifiable by their IT department that yes, this is absolutely his laptop. That's what would get him fired. So I advised my friend not to block him, to sit back and wait and not respond to anything, but let him dig himself in deeper, and respond he did. Update, he's been fired. So with now definitive proof that the individual in the online conversation is in fact this person, we'll forward it all to the local authorities in his country, along with his license plate number. They're more than capable of getting his home address. User Addicted Thinker said, while I absolutely love the revenge here, I'm honestly concerned. Every cornered animal is a dangerous animal. If he has nothing else to lose, there is no stopping him from doing more stupidity. So I'd like to suggest a thought. Stop short of using all your ammo so he has something left to fear. I don't know what you or her or him could do. Just want this story to remain a good revenge. Thank you, OP. Under this comment, OP said the following. I let her know this when we started, and I gave her the option. Tip our hand to him and let him know we know enough about him to make life messy for him if he goes through with it, or go nuclear to bait him into doing something really stupid. She went with bait him into doing something really stupid. That was her call. She seems at peace with the possibility of the pictures getting out. I haven't seen them because 1, I really don't want to put her in that position. 2, I don't want to put me in the position of seeing my friend's tits. And 3, I don't want to put my partner in the position of her partner looking at another woman's tits. But from my understanding, they're fairly nondescript. It's not something that can largely be brought back to her or that can have major downstream ramifications, so she's okay with it. User Lunather said, we have lawyers in our family, but one of my uncles is a freaking shark. If there is a single drop of blood in the water, he's on it. The partnership he is in is full of people who take jobs like this pro bono and fuck up lives for fun. Yes, lawyers do this stuff and it happens. Do not with people who have close friends or family that are lawyers because they will go off the clock, and some would take it pro bono for fun, putting shitty people in their place.